You spent years sitting in classrooms. You raised your hand, you passed your tests, you followed every rule they gave you. Teachers graded your papers and told you whether you were smart or not based on how well you memorized information that someone else decided was important. You learned the periodic table. You learned algebra. You learned the dates of wars that ended before your grandparents were born. But when you walked out of that school and into real life, nobody had prepared you for what was actually waiting. Nobody taught you how to handle a person who pretends to be your friend while working against you behind closed doors. Nobody taught you how to stay composed when your world is falling apart and everyone is watching to see how you react. Nobody taught you how to protect your energy from people who drain it. Nobody taught you how to move strategically in situations where being emotional would destroy you. Nobody taught you how to read what a person is really thinking versus what they are saying out loud. School gave you a diploma, but it left you unarmed for the actual game of life. The smartest people you have ever met did not get their intelligence from a classroom. They got it from paying attention to things that most people ignore, from experiences that broke them and rebuilt them differently, from lessons that came wrapped in pain, confusion, and situations nobody could have prepared them for. That is the intelligence we are talking about today. These are the 9 dark secrets that the most effective, most powerful, most strategically intelligent people already know, and none of it was ever written in a textbook. Secret 1. They never show their full hand. There is a version of honesty that most people were raised to believe is always a virtue. Share what you feel, be transparent, let people know where you stand. And in the right relationships, with the right people, in the right moments, that is true. But most people have taken this idea and applied it everywhere, to everyone, at all times, without thinking about the consequences. They tell their co-workers every detail of their next career move. They tell people they barely know about their biggest dreams. They share their struggles and insecurities freely, thinking it builds connection, not realizing it sometimes just hands ammunition to the wrong people. The smartest people understand something that takes most people years to learn. Information is one of the most valuable currencies that exists. And like any currency, spending it carelessly leaves you broke. When you reveal your plans before they are complete, you open them up to criticism before they have a chance to survive. When you reveal your fears to the wrong person, you show them exactly how to get to you. When you explain your every move, you become predictable. And predictable people are easy to outmaneuver. This is not about being secretive or cold. This is about being intentional. Smart people still build genuine relationships. They still share deeply with people who have earned that level of trust. But they understand that not every person in their life deserves access to every room inside them. They share enough to keep people engaged. They reveal enough to build connection. But they always keep something in reserve. They never lay every card on the table at once. Here is what happens when you practice this. Your words start carrying more weight. When you are someone who does not speak constantly, who does not explain every decision, who does not feel the need to justify every move, people start listening more carefully when you do speak. There is a magnetic quality to someone who is not desperate to be understood. They draw people in rather than pushing information at them. Your silence becomes a statement. Your mystery becomes an advantage. And the people who want to understand you have to come closer to do it. Secret 2. They study people like a subject. Every school has a curriculum. Math, science, history, literature. But not a single school on earth has a required class called Human Behavior 101. Not one institution sits young people down and says, let us teach you how to actually understand the people you will spend your entire life surrounded by. And so most people go through their whole lives reacting to people instead of understanding them, getting blindsided by betrayal, getting confused by why certain people act certain ways, getting manipulated by tactics they never learned to recognize. The smartest people decided at some point, consciously or not, to make human beings their primary area of study. They watch how a person behaves when they are under pressure versus when everything is going their way. They notice the difference between what someone says and how they say it. They pay attention to who a person becomes when they are angry, when they feel threatened, when they want something from you. They listen to what topics make someone light up, what topics make them go quiet, what they brag about, what they avoid. Because here is what most people miss. Every person you interact with is constantly giving you information about who they really are. Not in their highlight reel moments, but in the small, unguarded ones. The way someone talks about people who are no longer useful to them. The way someone takes credit when things go right and assigns blame when things go wrong. The way someone treats a waiter or a junior employee when no one important is watching. These are not random behaviors, they are data points. And the smartest people collect them. When you develop this skill, something shifts in your experience of the world. You stop being surprised by people. You stop saying, I never saw that coming, because you started seeing it months ago and chose how to position yourself accordingly. You do not live in paranoia. You live in clarity, and that clarity is one of the most valuable things a human being can possess. Secret 3. They control their emotions like a weapon. Let us be honest about something. The idea that you should always express what you feel, always let your emotions out, always say what is on your mind, sounds healthy on the surface, and emotional expression is healthy. Suppressing everything until you break is not the goal here. But there is a critical difference between processing your emotions and being controlled by them in real-time situations where the stakes are high. Every time you react with visible anger, you tell the other person exactly how to get to you. Every time you respond with panic, you signal that you can be rushed. Every time you act from desperation, you invite people to take advantage of your need. Uncontrolled emotion in high-stakes situations is not authenticity. It is vulnerability being broadcast to people who may not deserve to see it and may not hesitate to use it. The smartest people feel everything. Do not misread this. They are not robots. They get angry, they get hurt, they feel fear, they feel doubt. But somewhere along the way, they develop the discipline to pause before responding. That pause, that single breath between feeling something and acting on it, is where real power lives. In that pause, they ask one question: is this response going to move me toward what I want or away from it? If the answer is away from it, they choose differently. This is what composure actually looks like from the inside. It is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of expression. It is understanding that your emotional state is yours to manage, and that handing control of it to external circumstances or to other people is one of the most expensive decisions you can make. The person who can remain calm when everyone around them is losing composure does not just survive difficult situations, they lead them. Secret 4. They embrace being misunderstood. Most people spend an enormous amount of energy trying to make sure everyone around them understands them, agrees with them, and approves of their decisions. This need is so deep and so automatic that most people do not even recognize how much it is controlling their choices. They take the safe path because the bold one would confuse people. They water down their vision because the full version seems too extreme. They abandon ideas before testing them because someone important in their life looked skeptical. The smartest people have made peace with something that most people find deeply uncomfortable. Not everyone is going to understand what you are doing, and that is completely fine. In fact, if everyone immediately understands and approves of your vision, it might be a sign that your vision is not ambitious enough. The most significant moves in any field, in any life, look questionable from the outside before they look brilliant. Context takes time, results take time. And while you are building, most people are only seeing the sacrifice without the payoff. Smart people do not make decisions by committee. They do not optimize for applause. They do not wait for consensus before moving. They develop such a strong inner compass that external confusion does not slow them down. They know why they are making the choices they are making. They know where they are going, even when they cannot fully explain the route to someone else. And that self-trust, that willingness to be misunderstood in the short term for the sake of something real in the long term, is one of the rarest forms of courage that exists. Secret 5. They learn from people they cannot stand. School taught you to respect good role models and ignore bad ones. Find a mentor who embodies what you want to become and follow their example. That is solid advice. But it is incomplete, because some of the most valuable lessons available to you do not come from people you admire. They come from people who frustrate you, manipulate you, and make your life harder. Think about the most difficult person in your life right now. The one who plays politics at work. The one who lies effortlessly. The one who always seems to get what they want regardless of how they get it. Most people respond to this person with one of two reactions. They either get angry and spend energy resenting them, or they avoid them and try to minimize contact. Both of those responses are understandable, but neither of them extracts the lesson. Smart people look at that same person and ask a completely different question. What is this person doing that actually works? Not ethically, not morally, but mechanically. What psychological levers are they pulling? What social dynamics are they exploiting? What need in other people are they identifying and using? Because understanding how manipulation works is the single most effective way to protect yourself from it. You cannot defend against a tactic you have never studied. You cannot recognize a pattern you have never learned to see. This is not about becoming the person you dislike. This is about refusing to stay ignorant of how certain people operate. Knowledge extracted from difficult sources is still knowledge. And the smartest people waste nothing, not even the painful experiences and the difficult personalities that cross their path. Secret 6. They are comfortable in the gray area. Here is something school never told you. Real life does not have answer keys. The situations that matter most are rarely clean. They rarely come with a clearly correct response that everyone will agree was right. They come with competing priorities, incomplete information, and consequences that ripple out in ways you cannot fully predict. And in those moments, people who can only function in black and white are going to struggle. The smartest people have developed comfort with moral complexity. They understand that sometimes protecting something valuable requires us making a decision that looks harsh from the outside. They understand that sometimes telling someone a difficult truth that temporarily hurts them is a deeper form of care than keeping them comfortable with a pleasant lie. They understand that being effective in the real world sometimes means choosing between two imperfect options and having the courage to choose anyway, instead of freezing in the name of staying pure. This does not mean having no values. It does not mean doing whatever benefits you at everyone else's expense. The smartest people have clear ethical lines that they do not cross. But within those lines, they give themselves permission to be pragmatic, to think about outcomes rather than appearances, to ask not what decision makes me look like a good person, but what decision actually produces the best result for the people I am responsible to. The person who cannot make a hard call because they are too afraid of being judged is not virtuous, they are avoidant. Real integrity is not about keeping your hands clean. It is about being willing to engage with difficult reality and take responsibility for what comes from your decisions. Secret 7. They build in silence. There is a psychological phenomenon that almost nobody talks about but that derails more dreams than failure ever does. When you tell someone about a goal you are pursuing, when you explain your vision in vivid detail, when you post about the journey you are beginning, your brain registers a version of the accomplishment before it has actually happened. The social recognition you receive from announcing the plan activates the same reward pathways that completing the plan would activate. And the result is that you get the dopamine hit without doing the work, which makes doing the work feel less urgent and less necessary. Smart people figured this out the hard way, or they observed it in others and refused to repeat the pattern. They stopped announcing and started executing. They stopped performing productivity and started producing results. They went quiet while they built. Not because they are secretive or antisocial, but because they understand that words and actions draw from the same finite supply of energy, and they have chosen to put most of that energy into actions. There is also a protective element to building in silence. When your ideas are still fragile and unformed, exposure to criticism or skepticism can kill them before they have a chance to develop. Not because the criticism is necessarily wrong, but because early-stage visions need shelter, not scrutiny. Smart people give their ideas room to develop in private before subjecting them to the world. They let the results do the announcing. And when they finally surface with something complete and real, it carries a weight that no announcement ever could have created. Secret 8. They never confuse movement with progress. Walk into any office in the world and you will see people who are extraordinarily busy. Meetings back to back, emails answered instantly, always moving, always occupied, always looking like they are working hard. And many of them, despite all that activity, are not actually moving forward. They are running in place. They have confused the feeling of being busy with the reality of being effective, and that confusion is costing them years. Smart people are ruthlessly honest with themselves about one question that most people are afraid to ask. Is what I am doing right now actually producing the result I am after? Not is it keeping me busy? Not is it making me look productive? Not is it the kind of thing I am supposed to be doing? Is it actually working? Is it actually moving the needle? Because if the honest answer is no, everything else is just performance. This kind of honesty requires a particular kind of courage because it means being willing to stop doing things that feel safe and familiar in favor of things that are harder and less certain but actually matter. It means cutting meetings that produce nothing. It means stopping projects that are not working even after you have invested significant time in them. It means accepting that some of the effort you have already put in was misplaced and choosing to redirect, rather than continue throwing energy at something that is not responding. Smart people focus on outcomes and work backward to the inputs that actually produce them. They are not trying to be the hardest worker, they are trying to be the most effective one. And there is a profound difference between those two things. Secret 9. They are not afraid of starting over. This is the secret that contains all the others. The one that makes everything else possible. Because every other secret on this list requires the willingness to let go of who you were and what you knew in order to become something more capable. And most people are terrified of that. There is a version of yourself that you built over years. Based on your experiences, your successes, your failures, the feedback you received from people around you, that version of yourself has an identity, it has a reputation, it has a set of strategies that worked at some point. And there is enormous psychological comfort in staying inside that version, even when it has stopped serving you. Even when the strategies are not working anymore, even when the identity you built is based on a chapter that has already closed. Smart people have a high tolerance for reinvention. They have developed the ability to look at their current situation honestly and ask whether the version of themselves they are operating as right now is the version that can actually get them where they want to go. And when the answer is no, they do something most people cannot bring themselves to do. They release the old version, not with self-destruction or shame, not by erasing everything they have built, but with a clear-eyed willingness to say this is not working and something new needs to begin. Starting over is not failure. Starting over is one of the most sophisticated things a human being can do because it requires overcoming the sunk cost fallacy, the ego investment in being consistent, the social discomfort of changing course when people around you expected you to stay the same. It requires a kind of internal freedom that takes years to develop. But the people who have it, the people who can genuinely begin again without being destroyed by what they are leaving behind, they are the ones who keep rising, no matter how many times the ground shifts beneath them. Here is what all 9 of these secrets have in common. None of them are about being born a certain way. None of them are about having access to certain resources or connections or advantages that most people do not have. Every single one of them is a skill, a capacity that was developed through deliberate attention and repeated practice by people who at some point decided that they were going to understand how life actually works, rather than how they were told it works. You were handed a curriculum designed to make you functional within a system, but you were never handed the deeper education, the one about how to read people, protect yourself, think strategically, move with intention, and rebuild when necessary. That education is not offered anywhere officially. It is assembled piece by piece through experience, observation, and the willingness to keep learning from everything that happens to you, including the things that hurt. You are assembling that education right now. Pick one of these 9 secrets, just one. Take it into your week and actually use it. Notice what changes. Notice how differently you experience a conversation when you are studying it instead of just reacting to it. Notice what shifts when you stop explaining yourself to everyone who asks. Notice how your decision-making improves when you pause before responding, instead of firing back instantly. The smartest people are not the ones with the highest test scores. They are the ones who never stopped learning from the actual world, and that is a school that is always open and always teaching. The only question is whether you are paying attention.